This is the TTArtisans 40mm f2 for full frame. It's small, cheap, and most importantly, has autofocus. And I have been really loving the images out of this, and there is a lot to love here, but a lens this tiny is bound to have some compromises. So let's go out and try and find a few, along with all the good stuff. Of course, there's probably more good than bad. So the 40mm, the f2, the tiny size, it makes it perfect for any kind of compact, street, or everyday photography situation. And that's really what I've been using it for ever since TTArtisans sent this out to me. So shout out to them, but they didn't ask me for anything other than my honest thoughts. So we're gonna do all the good stuff, the bad stuff, everything in between. But honestly, no matter if the optics are good, the size, build, and handling are just amazing. It's a simple lens with just an aperture and focus ring, but the size is like so perfect for some of these compact full frame cameras. It is also perfect for my S9 and finally feels like the lens we've all been waiting for ever since this camera came out. And there is an included lens hood, but just to keep the size down, I'm typically not gonna use it that much, but based on some tests later, you may want to. Also, do not lose that lens cap. It is used for firmware updates, so go out, buy some more lens body caps right now. You'll thank me later. And while you're at it, get like 100 pack of lens cloths while you're at it. You might as well. And I have to say that these aperture clicks are some of the best I have ever heard. I mean, just take a listen. See, this lens is not weather sealed, something to keep in mind. But again, given its price, it's understandable. Autofocus in video and stills is a small hit maybe. It's decently fast, but in really low light, it's a little uncertain. So yeah, it's not gonna perform quite as well as like my native Panasonic lenses, but it's pretty good for what it is. And while you're doing that focusing, there is a little bit of breathing, but come on, do you really care about this focus breathing on a lens like this, dude? Like, I really doubt you're gonna be doing cinematic focus pulls on this lens, but hey, if you do, let me know. In the real world, I didn't really notice too many issues with image quality. I'm sure you can certainly find some if you go looking, but before I go into that, there's actually one quality of this lens that is actually quite special. I don't know about you guys, but I'm seeing a little bit of that 3D pop, as they seem to call it. It definitely seems to be there, but why don't you let me know if you've used this lens or if you're seeing what I'm seeing down in the comments. While you're down there, think about liking and subscribing. If you do, I'll give you a heart. Anyway, looking right at the center at f2, we have really good sharpness, but at 2.8, I think it gets a little bit better, and that's about as sharp as it gets on a 24 megapixel sensor. But I'm a little bit more concerned about those corners. So back at f2, the corners are softer, but it's really only the extreme corners, which is surprising, I guess. Like, I kind of assumed they'd be a little worse, but I guess they are very dark if I want to nitpick. As you stop down, of course, it gets better and better, with 5.6 perhaps being a sweet spot for me. The vignetting will definitely be noticeable in your day-to-day photos, but even at f2.8 or 4, it goes away to a pretty big degree compared to f2. But personally, I'm someone who likes vignetting for the most part. It really brings me in and focuses me into the subject in a lot of these photos, assuming your subject is mostly center framed. Close focus is also one of those things where it's super underrated in camera reviews, and for me, the distance to your subject is a really important thing, and it's in this lens, it's pretty far, to be honest. I'd say it's acceptable, on the borderline of acceptable. You could get a decent shot of your, coffee or cocktail at a bar. You could definitely get the person sitting next to you at dinner, but hey, at least the image quality holds up pretty good at close focus distances. I'm also not really noticing any chromatic aberration in any of my shots, maybe a little bit of glowing and bloom, maybe some longitudinal chromatic aberration, probably a little bit more likely to happen, but still the modest f2, I don't know, there's a little smearing in the corners, so maybe for astrophotography, not the best choice, but overall, no real significant image issues, including distortion. No real distortion in the real world either. So flare might be a bit of a controversial topic for this lens, and I think technically it's a bit of an issue, but practically I kind of dig it. Let me explain. So when lights are in the center of the frame, the flaring is actually pretty well controlled, but anywhere on the edges of the frame or even outside the frame, the light really blooms out like you've got some kind of mist filter on. But just the sides, it's really fascinating how it presents itself. But personally, I think this kind of quirky look can kind of look awesome and really make some photos, or it could just totally wash out your image like crazy. You can actually see what looks like the texture of the glass or a reflection off of the internal metal a little bit. I've seen this before on a few lenses, but again, you may love it, you may hate it. In reality, it'd probably be a love-hate relationship for sure. Thankfully, that flare cleans up a little bit when stopping down, and you get some pretty awesome Sunstars. You're starting to see them at 2.8, 4, and 8, see them get more pronounced, and that glare goes away, at least in this situation. Some others might not, and at f/16, the Sunstars are actually pretty exaggerated. I think a lot of people are gonna like that. The bokeh here is actually pretty great too. It's actually fairly neutral, I would say. Bit of an irregular shape toward the edge, bit of an outlining, but I don't think anyone's gonna care. I don't need perfectly round, smooth bokeh on my tiny compact f2 everyday carry street photography prime. At the end of the day, it's actually pretty neutral. Never really distracting, never really super beautifully smooth. Definitely solidly in the middle of those two things, in my opinion. Even with like a full body shot, you can get some subject background separation, and it's never really distracting, which is all I can ask. Even though they both share a focal length at 40mm, I think this is a great addition to the kit lens as maybe your second lens for the S9, because while it does go to 40, the difference of light gathering and bokeh at 40mm between these two lenses is kind of night and day. So yeah, that's it. Again, I think especially for L mount users, where this is kind of the only option out there for a compact prime lens, you really don't even need to know anything else. For, Nikon, there's a more expensive and, version of this lens. For Sony, I have no idea. We don't talk about them on this channel. And if you do, you will be banned. That's kind of a joke. But anyway, this is a fantastic lens, great build. It looks great. It pairs amazing with the S9. It would pair amazing with the Sigma BF as well, or any of these compact full frame cameras. Autofocus is great, image quality is awesome, and really at the end of the day, I'm just loving the images I'm getting out of this lens because I've got it with me. It is, take the kit lens, take this, you've got a really good setup for pretty much everything except for really far away subjects. I think a kit that is that small and that powerful is really not to be taken for granted, and it's awesome that it finally exists for the system. And now we just got to get these guys to make a 28mm, and we are set. We are set. Anyway, guys, thanks for watching. Thanks for stopping by. Thanks for TTArtisans for sending this lens out to me. They've got some other great stuff I definitely want to try out in the future as well. Like, comment, subscribe. And I'll see you when I see you.